Let's talk about symbolic construction or symbolic constructivism. Why symbolic constructivism? Anytime you're talking about a polarized or issue-driven communication, you need to think about symbolic construction. So this is particularly true with sustainability communication, where you have people whose interpretation of situations, particularly polarized situations, has a lot to do with culture, experiences, background, perhaps generation, perhaps area in which they were born or raised. All of these things play a role. So, symbolic construction emphasizes the figurative way the world as we know it is assembled and disassembled through communication. So, the figurative way the world as we know it is assembled and disassembled through communication. So, through communication, and this includes verbal as well as nonverbal communication, we build or construct the symbols around us, or we give them meaning. The term encompasses how we imagine, define, contest, and articulate signs. And signs can be many things. So signs can be the furniture that we put in our houses, the way that we construct our cities, the perfume that we wear or don't wear, the makeup that we wear or don't wear, the hairstyles um, that we find attractive at one time and maybe not attractive at another, the fashions that we wear, and so on, as well as, of course, as we were talking last week about framing. This all ties into framing as well. So frames are constructed through symbols too. The environment affects us, but our language and other symbolic action also has the capacity to affect or construct our perceptions of the environment itself. So let's look at an example that doesn't have to do with the environment first. So these are all 80s images. Top right-hand corner, those are parachute pants, popularized by MC Hammer. Haven't seen those much these days. Bottom right-hand corner, giant shoulder pads. Those were really big when I was a young adult, and the bigger the better. On the left, I thought I'd include this one. Tiffany was a pop star for about 5 minutes back in the 80s. And when I look at this particular picture, I basically see myself as a 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old. Same hair, same jacket, same black sweater, same high-waisted jeans with a belt. I mean, I might as well have been her. And yet I never thought that I followed fashion trends particularly. I used to like the idea that I didn't follow fashion trends. Obviously, I was mistaken, but that's the thing with symbolic construction. We're not always aware of it. So let's look at some other examples. So let me contrast here a little bit. This model on the left has these very short pants, and when I was younger we would have called these flood pants, and you would not have been caught dead in pants that looked like these. It was not fashionable to wear pants that looked short like this. I think this implied that you were poor and you were wearing someone's hand-me-downs that didn't fit very well. Now, completely different. Top right, here we are, high-waisted jeans again. When did that happen? For the longest time, These were called mum jeans, and they were not something that you wanted to be wearing. But they're back, and I'm super relieved about that. Bottom right-hand corner, um, for men, a lot of facial hair. Holy smokes. That there seems to be facial hair everywhere. And fashionable hats. I would say for decades, I didn't see hats that weren't either cowboy hats or baseball caps. Uh, these bowler hats or fedoras, or I'm not sure what the other caps are called. That is a relatively new thing, but it harkens back to an older time when those sorts of hats were popular as well. So, how do we decide what we want to wear? And it's not like these are small choices, because if you wear the wrong thing at the wrong time, you can label yourself as a particular class, you can label yourself as a particular subset that might make you unpopular or might make you the object of derision or all sorts of things, or might make you the popular person. So the value we place on people, places, other species, objects, and fashion, as we saw in the previous slides, is often highly subjective. Usually it's highly subjective. It's often based on a plethora of experiences, personal beliefs, and the beliefs of our peers, as well as cultural expectations and paradigms. In other words, they are symbolically constructed. They are symbolic constructions. And as I said earlier, these are not always conscious uh, choices or biases that we have. More often than not, they are unconscious, but that doesn't mean that we don't have very passionate feelings about them. So these constructions can be quite polarized and polarizing around certain sustainability issues, and that's why I want to draw your attention to them. So let's look at a couple of different sets of images. This first set of images around bacon. Every time I see a cute little piggy, I think, yum. Either you like bacon or you're wrong. There are two kinds of people, bacon lovers and liars. I'm not sure if bacon jokes are still really big, but for a while they sure were. I had a roommate for a while who seemed to talk about bacon an awful lot. And and I do remember liking the taste of bacon, but it almost seems to be a cultural thing. And I often wonder if part of it is pushback against the rise in vegetarianism um, and the rise of animal rights activism. So here's a contrasting set of images. The human animal is not the only being on earth which possesses the ability to express love and emotion. The misery beyond Bacon Week, and I am not pork. I am somebody and I value my life. So, completely different set of images from these ones. And so you will get people who are very passionate about not eating meat, and in particular about not eating pigs. And then you get people who are very passionate about eating pigs and bacon. So what's the difference? These are all people from the same society, yet we have these really polarized ideas. And the same is true for landscapes and environments and the things that are within the environment. So landscapes are definitions of ourselves. Landscapes are the symbolic environments created by human acts of conferring meaning to nature and the environment, of giving the environment definition and form from a particular angle of vision and through a special filter of values and beliefs. Every landscape is a symbolic environment. These landscapes reflect our self-definitions that are grounded in culture. So if you look at the top image there, some might see beauty, some might see biodiversity. Some people will see an old growth forest, a standing old growth forest, and they will treasure it. Other people might see that image and think, oh, that looks like I wouldn't want to be there. That looks uncomfortable. I bet there's lots of insects there. I bet, that wouldn't be fun to walk through. Lots of different ideas about these kinds of images. Bottom right-hand corner. Someone might look at this and think employment, economic wealth, community. Other people might look at this and see devastation, loss of a valuable resource, or loss of species and habitat. Different ways of interpreting it. People might look at this image and think, wow, what a beautiful lawn. I want a lawn like that. Other people would look at this and think monoculture and use of pesticides and herbicides, and not interpret this as a beautiful thing. Many people would think we shouldn't be having lawns like this anymore. We need to think about water conservation, and other people would be thinking, this is what I aspire to. This is what I'm working towards. And of course, these interpretations are based on many things. Back in the early 1900s, late 1800s, many people came from Europe and the US, came to Western Canada in particular to log the old growth rainforests, particularly on the coast, but other areas as well. My great grandfather was one of these people, and if his lumber mill hadn't burned down, he might have been a lumber baron on Vancouver Island. And this was what was aspired to. So this was represented this represented prosperity, and also I think it probably represented a lot more. I talked in another class about the myth of superabundance, and so you see that here. There's no hint in this photograph that anyone's worried about the last of the old growth rainforest. It must have seemed like it was endless to many people at the time. These men are obviously very proud of themselves. They're posing with this tree in a way that suggests that they want this moment commemorated. They probably spent a lot of time getting this tree down, and they're proud of that action. This is a very different interpretation, a modern interpretation. There is value now placed on this tree by many people, not everybody, but a lot of people. So these values and our symbolic construction of various things changes. It is not static. So can you think of examples of popular discourse and symbolic construction that has changed in your lifetime? And then what changes might you experience, do you think, in the next 20 years?